Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, and we had a down day in the market, even though the data that we got was pretty bullish. The CPI number was bullish. We also got Elon Musk and Trump kind of making up on Twitter, but we did get some signs that there may be another geopolitical conflict that is close to becoming heated. We'll talk about that in a second. And so the market is bracing for impact, as you can see in this beautiful thumbnail. So very quickly, the indices today, the Russell was down 0.41%. The Dow Jones was basically flat. The S&P was down 0.27%. Nasdaq was down 0.37%. Tesla was flat, and a lot of these names were flat. CoreWeave, for the first time in its history, was down 3.36%. And Bitcoin is now at 108,000 after knocking on the door of 110,000 a couple times. We'll see if we can make some new highs here. I actually think we will by the end of the summer, inshallah. The price of Doge is now closer to 19 cents than it is 20 cents. So let's talk about the major news events of today. Don't forget, 35% off until June 15th, 35% off of our premium and elite memberships. Join our community. Use code ADHA25 before June 15th. Take advantage of this offer. You get access to our portfolio and trades, move for move, as well as privileged insights and our watch list, our growing watch list of companies, as well as their buy below prices, take profit prices. I think it should pay for itself many times over, inshallah. Certainly, our reviews have suggested that it has for many of our members. All right, so in addition to the CPI number, we also got a sort of US and China trade truce. It's not an agreement, but a truce in terms of walking back some of the recent escalation that happened. Hopefully, we get a long-term agreement here and the market can kind of put this behind it. It is a continued source of stress, but a truce is better than escalation here. In terms of the inflation number that we got, core CPI inflation was 0.1%, even though the forecast was closer to 0.3%. So we beat our forecast in terms of month-over-month CPI core inflation increase. And we beat the number that we got in April, which was 0.2%. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting some hotter inflation prints deeper into the summer. I do think that the tariff impact has really not been priced in at all, but I think that in the future readings, we may get a flavor of the impact that tariffs actually had on prices. And there was an impact. So I wouldn't be alarmed if we got a few hotter than expected CPI prints moving forward. And it does seem like Trump and Elon have kind of found a path forward. Elon has said, I regret some of my posts about President Trump last week. They went too far. Question in my mind and in the minds of many is, you're saying you regret them, they went too far, but were they true? That's the question. Nevertheless, this is as it relates to Tesla as an investment, and that is what we care about. I do think that this is a distraction. It's noise. It's not actually going to impact the longer term fact that the future of transport is going to be electric and it's going to be autonomous. Tesla is a leader in those two categories. And Jensen, CEO of Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, it's interesting that he kind of laid out without actually trying to laid out the Tesla bull thesis himself. And I think, when Jensen is talking about technology, it's behooves the listener to pay attention. Talking about Elon, he mentioned that he's an extraordinary engineer, and every single one of his projects is revolutionary. He says, I love working with him. We've built some amazing computers together. We're going to build many more computers together. And I actually think there is a non-trivial chance that Tesla actually builds its own chips. It does have a knack for vertical integration. It does want to wane itself off of its dependency on NVIDIA chips. So I think that that's very, very, you know, uh, possible that Tesla actually gets into that, multi-trillion-dollar business, just to add another a line of business to its diverse array of trillion-dollar businesses that it's engaged in. The work he's doing with Grok, his self-driving car, his Optimus, these are all, every single one of them, world-class, every single one of them revolutionary. Every single one of them are going to be gigantic opportunities, and we're delighted. I'm delighted to be working with him on that. So every single one of them are going to be gigantic opportunities. Listen, Jensen Huang clearly watches this live. We've been talking about this for a long time. I think the Optimus opportunity is just right around the corner. So he's talking about Optimus, focused on Optimus, and I think it makes a lot of sense, even though everyone's focused on Robotaxi right now. But Optimus is actually the bigger opportunity. And even though Robotaxi is a massive opportunity in and of itself, he says, I think Optimus opportunity is just right around the corner. This is someone who has a pulse on, the bleeding edge of technology. It's very likely that humanoid robots are going to be robots that we can deploy into the world relatively easily. And this is the first robot that really has a chance to achieve the high volume and technology scale necessary to advance technology. I think this is likely to be the next multi-trillion-dollar industry, and I'm very excited for him. So when you get an endorsement, a bull thesis for Tesla from Jensen Huang, I think it behooves investors to listen. Now, the impact I'm referencing and what I think the market is bracing for is what appears to be an imminent strike on Iran. I don't think the US is going to be involved. I think Israel is probably going to act alone. And there are signs that this is going to happen. So if you look at the U.S. embassy in Iraq, there's news about a partial evacuation or perhaps even a full evacuation of the embassy in Iraq over security threats. You have people like Tom Cotton who are sort of, getting people prepared mentally that, Iran is a terrorist regime and we should all be afraid of it. By the way, he takes a lot of money from APAC. And he's trying to make it America's fight when it obviously is not America's fight in any way. Iran is not a threat to the United States in any way. And Washington Post reported that the U.S. intelligence officials have grown increasingly concerned that Israel may choose to strike Iran's nuclear facilities without the consent of the United States. I wouldn't be surprised if they do exactly that. Iran's sort of long arm in the region, Hezbollah, has been decapitated and basically rendered ineffective. The rest of Iran's allies are no longer players. Not that Bashar al-Assad was going to do anything anyway. It was, just a punching bag. But basically, their allies in the region are, no longer. Their proxies in the region are no longer able to fight on its behalf. I think Israel is seeing this as a opportunity to take out a regional competitor. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a substantial strike. Now that would cause ripples in the market, but I think the bounce back is going to be pretty quick. Uh, I'm hoping and I expect that this will not be a prolonged conflict. It will be something like previous strikes where just back and forth, and then that was kind of it. I'm hoping, uh, and therefore, if that is what transpires, the bounce back in the market should be pretty quick. Obviously, there are signs in the market that suggest investors are perhaps anticipating a conflict, and the price of oil uh, shot up around 5% in the span of an hour uh, today. And so, yeah, there are signs. Some swing trade ideas if you're into that thing. So obviously tankers outside of the Gulf. If shipping routes have to reroute from the Gulf to alternative routes, tankers that are in um, specializing in routes outside of the Gulf may benefit, see increased demand for their services. Gold ETFs and miners, gold typically does well when conflicts arise. Cybersecurity, typically the conflict is going to involve a cybersecurity element to it. And so companies in that space will likely benefit. And utilities and generally defensive stocks typically do well when there is armed conflict anywhere in the world, especially when the conflict first starts. So, with that being said, don't forget the 35% off limited time deal. And with that, let's go to questions. Rashad, please, no more impacts. Yes. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. May Allah protect all innocent lives. All right. Brother Muhammad Hussein says, Assalamu alaikum. Is BitBee a good option for retirement accounts? Can't give you personalized financial advice. I do think that for longer term investment horizons, Bitcoin is a good addition to any portfolio. I wouldn't go too crazy with it. The fact of the matter is, Bitcoin, there is a threat to Bitcoin, and that is, or there is a weakness to Bitcoin, and that is, it is reliant on the network always being up and not being compromised in any way. Now, it is becoming increasingly difficult, and some may argue virtually impossible, to break the Bitcoin network or for it to go down. But the fact of the matter is, a network is still required, unlike something like gold, which doesn't require a network. So, that being said, now there are obviously a lot of advantages to Bitcoin versus gold. But that being said, for people who just go all in on Bitcoin, for example, just have that in the back of your mind when you're making decisions. I think it's important to understand what are the risks of the investments that you're making. It's not saying I'm like predicting this to happen. I'm not. I'm just saying that people are often more certain of something than they sometimes are. Um, have a right to be, basically. So just keep that in mind. Yellowaya, big fan of the name. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Thanks for the precious and supportive information. Is there any news about PLM? No. I would hold at this particular point. Not investment advice again, but I think holding makes sense. Rehan says salam. Wa alaikum salam. Nice to see you all. And leave a like if you enjoyed this live. I would really appreciate that. Make sure to take care of yourself. And until next time, assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.